So thank you all for enjoying that previous session. Don't forget to put your questions and then we will take them offline. Gentle reminder for all of you, for those who have just entered, welcome to the summit. And for the rest of you, gentle reminder that all of you will be muted. Please type down your questions in the Q&A box, not the chat box, okay? You see the 3 dots next to the chat box? Click on that and you'll have a Q&A session to input your questions, okay? And then we will answer those questions by the end of the session, which will be held for 10 minutes. So please take the opportunity, and if time does not permit, no worries, we will take the questions offline. Now, moving on to Aparna. She is an experienced solutions consultant with a demonstrated history of working in the information technology and services industry. She is skilled in test automation, software development, Java, NodeJs, requirements analysis, PL/SQL, and BDD tools such as Jbehave, Cucumber, etc. She has strong consulting professionalism in test automation and BDD with a master's degree focused in software engineering from Birla Institute of Technology and Science, Pilani. Aparna, please, I hereby invite you to the virtual stage.
Thank you, Daniel. I'll share my screen. Please give me a buzz once you can see it.
Sure thing, I'll let you know.
Yep, I've started
Yes.
sharing it. Cool. You can see my screen, right?
Your screen and in full screen, yes.
Yeah. Fine now?
Yes, we can see your screen and it's full screen, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Hi, everyone. I hope you all are doing safe and good. And thanks, Daniel, for the nice introduction. As Daniel mentioned, I'm Aparna, and I work as a QE consultant. I also speak at conferences and share my knowledge with testing community through writing articles. I also do take part in career coaching and mentoring sessions. Mind my voice, please. I have got a cold, so if you feel something is not audible, please give a shout. I'm happy to repeat it. If you want to ask any questions after the talk, or you simply want to get connected, I'm in Twitter at Aparna2019 and on LinkedIn. This ID is given here. It's Aparna A. Gopalakrishnan. So today, the talk is on the career coaching side, switching careers in QA, transition from manual to automation testing. So with that, what are we going to cover today? In this talk, we cover why is automation testing in demand? Will it replace manual testing completely? Commitments and considerations when switching the career? And finally, how to prepare yourself to switch to your dream role. All right. So before we start, let's look into some of the stats. That'll be interesting to see because, we can see some facts out there. So PractiTest back in the year 2019 conducted a survey, and it says 78% of organizations use test automation for functional or regression testing, which also says 74% of testers also carry out scripting and automation. And there is another survey conducted by Test Magazine that said only 5% of survey respondents said that they currently carry out 0 to 100% manual to automation testing. The majority are either at 75 to 25 or 50 to 50. And 9% said they are only doing manual testing. So this gives a clear idea. At that point in time, 75 to 25 or 50-50 is the ratio. But they also say that over the next 5 years, they would like to see an increase of automation testing from 50 to 75 and a significant reduction from 50 to 25 in manual testing. And 14% interestingly said that they would like to have no manual testing at all. So that being said, it clearly giving us the information that industry is trending towards automation, or in other words, is already following automation journeys, right? What would happen to manual testing in that case? Will manual testing be completely go away? Well, it cannot be, right? You know why? There are different kinds of testing which cannot be completely fulfilled by automation. For example, accessibility testing, security testing. We have automated tools like acts ZAP proxy for accessibility and security testing, but they cannot give full coverage. We know accessibility testing is like pretty huge. It has got a lot of guidelines to be tested and verified, and there is no one tool can do the complete coverage. And even if we use multiple tools together, we cannot justify accessibility testing coverage. So in such case, we have to have manual testing. And so as the same case with security testing. And there is another area where manual testing is required is exploratory testing. We know in exploratory testing, it is a technique in which there will not be any predefined scenarios, right? Uh, testers will, everything is in testers' mind. Testers will just test the system on the fly. So we cannot control a script to do that, and which is not possible at all. So we need to have manual testing there. And another thing, there will be many other scenarios where, because of some technical issues and maybe environmental issues or any other issue, uh, we are not able to automate. So in such cases, we have to rely on manual testing. So from this, it is clear that we cannot completely avoid using manual testing, right? So then why companies need automation? So that's an interesting thing. Let's have a look at one of the product delivery model to explain it better. This is a typical agile delivery model. From product backlog to sprint backlog, we get tickets to planning phase, and then we refine it, and then we go to the design stage, and then development and testing, and then release, and this is repeated. So as we see here, the development and testing is happening almost together. Unlike traditional delivery models like waterfall, we do not have a separate testing cycle here. It will happen simultaneously along with the development, right? Some of the times in certain companies, developers will be doing the testing. Sometimes there will be a QA person writing the test cases and testing them. So imagine a case where we will have in development cycle, we will have a period until release. So we will have to deploy our developed code into different environments for testing. It can be integration, then staging, pre-production, and finally the production. That would be the release place. So in all this multi environments, you would have to, after every deployment, you would have to do certain testing, sanity testing, regression testing, cross-browser, visual, accessibility, or with whatever testing, like you will have to perform some kind of testing at every deployment, right? So imagine if we are doing it manually, how much time would it be taking, right? So considering a delivery model like this, especially in an agile world, if we take a lot of time for testing and we get a very slow feedback, then complete delivery will be impacted. We'll not be able to deliver things on time. Whereas if we use a automated tool has a capability. We can program anything, right? If we have a tool, we can program anything. We can write assertions. So even the same test can be used for asserting, for cross-browser testing, functional testing, and even for visual validation. And you can also have some other set of test cases for API validations. So we are significantly reducing the effort of doing execution, and we are also reusing it. So that being said, when if we have an automation tool in place, it saves time, and it also increases the test coverage, because manually there is a chance that we miss some of the scenarios because of time issues. If the scenario is too lengthy, there is a natural tendency that maybe, okay, let's, if it is not that priority test case, probably there is a chance that we might push that into a next stage, and finally we might miss that, right? So that can be avoided, and we can increase the coverage. Also, it is reusable, and because of all these reasons, effort and cost will have a significant reduction, and that is very important. And finally, last but not the least, there is a return of investment factor for automation. So the same survey that has been conducted by the TIS magazine says that majority of the respondents reported seeing a return of investment immediately, I think within 6 months, and then after 1 year they see even more than that. So For all this reason, companies will prefer to go with an automation approach. So we see why companies are moving towards automation. So do you fancy a change? So definitely employees within one of those companies would have to upskill, right? Otherwise, companies would hire skilled people from outside. As long as the growth is a concern in the career, and it is really important, we need to upskill ourselves, right? So let's get started. Now we have decided, we understand that we need to move on, we need to upskill ourselves. Then there will be a lot of questions, there will be a lot of opinions when we start looking around. People will say this course is better than that, this tool is better than that. Should I learn Selenium or Cypress? I heard AI is good, so I should learn that too. And maybe Jenkins is very hot in the market, you should learn that as well. So I mean, a lot of questions will come like this, a lot of opinions will come from different parts of the world. uh, it's good to see the options, but that shouldn't confuse yourself. We need to start one at a time, right? So the starting trouble is very normal. When we start exploring what we need to learn, we would find a lot of information online. People from our network are kindly enough to suggest the learning platforms, courses, topics, etc. So it's all good, but too much information is also harmful, because the problem is we get confused about what to choose. We cannot learn all of them together, right? One at a time. And there will be a time you have to learn all of them, but like, you will get there one at a time. And when you learn automation, then you will be comfortable with that. You can probably start learning other things. So again, choosing the options, there is nothing good or bad. There is no like one language is better than the other language, or there is nothing like one tool is better than other tool. There can be, but it's based on the requirements and needs. So it's like apples and oranges. Like we cannot probably compare before knowing both what is the differences and what are the advantages with the different tools and languages. So uh, it's all like personal preferences as well. So in case like when I started my career, I trained in Java, but then now I'm working with TypeScript. So like in between, I worked on Ruby as well. So it's just like that. So if you ask me a personal preference, I have to probably suggest all of them because I've worked on all of them. It doesn't mean that the other languages are bad. So these are the things that probably quite confusing the decision making, but somehow you need to set the priorities like one at a time. Do not get confused. Remember, there will be a learning curve, and that learning curve will be like steep at times. Like if a person is coming from a non-technical background completely, you'll have to probably take a steeper curve to get there, but you'll get there. And that learning curve is different for everyone. So first things first, right? Recognize the change. As you see the project that you're working is moving towards automation, or you see a need of upskilling yourself, when you recognize immediately that, you understand and accept that, we need to um, understand that there is a change required and you need to upskill yourself. The self-acceptance is the most important thing for any change to happen. Then identify the choice. That being said, it is a bit hard. That phase is the hardest phase, I would say, because identifying a choice from plenty of options is really hard. But again, it's case to case. If the project is already decided, say if the architects in the projects are already decided what technology that they will be using, it is pretty straightforward. You can probably go ahead with that. Or even if you do not have a clarity, but if you know your team, the dev teams are using a specific technology, for example, Java, then a natural inclination towards Java, because you would get more support if you start your automated test, or you start your uh, automation using Java. You can get review comments from devs more proactively. They can be helpful with, I mean, they can help you with scripting. Even they can contribute when it comes to test automation. So all these aspects, like, that will be good. But certain cases, there are some scenarios where people are taking career break or maybe maternity leaves or sabbatical leaves, and then probably after a year or two, when people trying to come to the industry, they will see change, drastic change. Things would have completely changed because every day new tools are coming, technology is evolving, and the needs are changing, people are demanding. So it will be hard in such cases. But what would we do, right? So in such cases, you will have to probably rely on the industry, the network, your networking. Uh, you can start a poll on LinkedIn or Twitter, ask for opinions. You can look for the, job market. What tool is, what tool or what technology is in demand. You can go through the job profiles, different agencies, and there will be many job sites, right? So you can actually review the jobs, the technologies, and what kind of job profiles are they recruiting. So these all are like a bit of a research that we would have to do, and then we need to make a decision. But whatever it is, like in whichever case, like even if you know what tool that you need to use or what technology that you need to use, there is a fact that learning curve is there. So that takes time. So you need to consider that time before you start working on it as well. Because maybe give some time to learn before you commit something. And when you start learning something completely new, uh, as I mentioned, it takes a while to get that on hold, and we must accept that. And it's different. So maybe I might take 10 days, but you probably would take 5 days to learn something. So it'll be different for everyone. And these all are the prerequisites for anyone who wants to change from manual QA to automation has to go through. So now let's see like how practically that is possible. Right? Again, once you identify a choice, it is easy that identify a course online and you can start learning that. You could ask suggestions, look for reviews before buying or enrolling the courses. There are many online courses are free. You can get certifications for free as well. But earning certification is just one side of it. Like earning degrees, earning certification is just one part of it. The other main part is understanding the content, because ultimately you're going to work on that technology or tool, right? So you need to understand it to the core. You need to, it's not just for clearing the exams. There are differences when you study, right? When you study to clear an exam and when you study to uh, make it working, practically understanding how things are is different. So make different, identify the differences and then go on with that. And once you are comfortable with coding any specific language, you can probably choose the next appropriate tool, because being in an automation, we need to understand tool as well. So apart from the programming language, in addition to that, you need to understand the tool as well, automated testing tool as well. So if it is a web related world, a web UI testing tool, then you can probably go for Selenium, Cypress, or Playwright, or whatever is the demanding one. And even if you go with one, doesn't mean that you will be working with only with that forever, right? Things can change. Maybe your project probably tomorrow decide to go with another tool, so you'll have to probably upskill it. So with all this exercise, what we are doing is we are enabling ourselves to adapt to the changes. So even if you are if you have learned Java, for example, you learned Java and Selenium, but tomorrow you got a job for using JavaScript with Cypress, then you probably would have to learn that. So it's all like once you learn something, then it will be easy for you to shift that into another one. That learning will be different. That learning curve will be different. It will be definitely lesser than how you started from zero to something, right? So that continuous learning will always be there. So uh, again, choosing the choices is hard, but you need to start with something and then move on from there. And once you identify, once you're comfortable with coding and once you're comfortable with the tool that you selected, then you can start writing your automated test. You can start building a framework, test framework. You can practice it, practice it, practice it. So without practice there is no shortcut other than practicing it, so you'll have to keep on practicing. There will be like certifications and exams you can take to check if you have done well. There are many open source repositories, open source projects where we can contribute and see how well we are doing it. Oh, you can fork those projects and try it out. If you are not in a project, if you are in a project, then you'll have a project to work on. But if somebody is not in a project and they're just trying to upskill for themselves, then you can use this open source platforms. And also, more importantly, you need to network. Networking is really important because through networking, you identify the opportunities, you explore the opportunities, and you grab the opportunity. Talk to people, then you will understand everything. When we, like even the sessions like this, right? Why we go for conferences and seminars, because we get to see a lot of people. We understand new things. So grab that opportunities and then keep learning. So again, as we speak, this looks simple, but again, because of this learning curve, this would take a while. People with slight technical background would easily be onboarded, but people who are working in manual QA for years and years would find it slightly difficult, but they will get there. One thing to be very careful is that do not get confused with options, because that decision stage is very important. I've received a lot of messages last year asking about um, what is a learning platform, what is a programming language that I should learn. So personally, I wouldn't. I probably it's like I cannot probably recommend. I can recommend what I know, but like that wouldn't be the end of the world, right? That would not be the right options always. So we can start a poll, you can ask community, different people, then you can take a decision in such cases. And you can also look for some of the learning platforms, like there are some learning tools, right? They will have the learning part, so that would help. So those are the point of areas that we would always go for. And always remember, if even if you learn a language now, tomorrow you would have to change it, you would have to learn something new. So all we are trying to do with all this exercise is like enabling ourselves to adapt to the changes, right? It's very important that we always have to keep learning. So these are some of the useful resources for learning. I would recommend Test Automation University because we have got a lot of different learning paths available there, especially for beginners. That would really help. And even for advanced and moderate courses are available. And there is another good course on LinkedIn Learning, Become a Test Automation Engineer, which will also, help. And there are a lot of udemy.com courses available. By selecting the Udemy courses, you have to go for the reviews. You have to always check the reviews, because it's most of them are paid courses, right? So you always look the reviews, ask for feedback, and then buy it. So with that, with one of my favorite quotes from Steve Jobs, I would stop here. Learn continually. There is always one more thing to learn. Always. So thank you. I know like we have 8 minutes left before the time. So if we have any questions, we can discuss now.
Hi, Aparna. Thank you so much for your presentation. And yes, you are right. We are ahead of schedule a little bit. So we will now head on to the Q&A sessions now. So everyone, please take the opportunity, send your questions in the Q&A box, and we will present them to Aparna. All right. So let me just look in the chat box and see if there's any. All right. Done. All right. Okay. So we have one. I tried a lot to learn programming, but was unable to get it over there. I'm very good into functional testing, so how could you encourage me to shift into automation testing?
Sorry, the question is like the person has tried to learn programming but is unable to do it.
Yes, but they're very
Okay.
good at functional testing, so how could you encourage them to shift into automation testing?
Okay. That's an interesting case. The only thing I could recommend is that, so yeah, we need to understand like what is the pain area that you are seeing when you are learning a programming language. Is it because of are you not able to understand the concept, or is it that you understand the concept but you are not able to write a test by yourself? What I mean, do you know what is the reason? I mean, if the reason is like like you understand the concept, but you don't know how to apply into a test automation, then probably practice makes it better. Or maybe there are chances that the course that you are referring is, a bit harder. So, I mean, even if you learn, there are differences, right? If you are learning for development, like application development, you will have to probably learn bit more, heavily, like heavy programming. But for automation learning, maybe you don't really have to deep dive into that to begin with. So maybe start with simple courses, simple programming courses, and then you can also start working on simple projects to get hands-on. So practice is the only way you have to, if you really want to shift into automation. Uh, I think there is no shortcut to it. So probably you have to practice better and maybe identify a better easy course. So I don't know the other context, like what course you have gone for or what technology that you have selected. But if you want to have a deeper discussion, maybe we can have it, in Twitter or LinkedIn, or maybe at some time later. I,
All
I,
right.
I hope that would answer.
No, I think you answered the question. It just like if anything, it'll take practice. All right,
Yeah.
no worries. We'll go on to the next question.
Mhm.
This next question is, what are the common challenges faced and time frame taken while transitioning from manual to automation?
What are the challenges?
Yeah, what are the common challenges faced and what's the time frame taken when transitioning from manual to automation?
So, main challenge is like understanding the programming concept is the main challenge, because if a person has been working on manual testing for years, especially 10, 11 years, then there's a chance that that touch of programming that we learned in the college would have been gone out of your mind. So uh, refreshing that is the main thing that has taken time, and how much time it is taking is purely personal, because you cannot compare how much I am taking and maybe how much you are taking, right? Because learning curve for individual is different. So I think that is, that we cannot comment on how much time it would take, but it takes time. It would easily take time, probably a month, 2 to 6 months, probably a year. Yeah.
All right, great. This next question here is, which language do you suggest to start with automation?
Oh, I know. This is the scariest question. I mean, I think I covered when I was discussing the presentation, I guess. I cannot recommend, to be honest, but I would say one thing. I have trained in Java, so I was a Java programmer. So when I was in Java development, I moved into test automation. I had to work on Ruby as well. So I found my because of the Java programming skill helped me to work on other programming language as well. Like I could easily work on Ruby as well as JavaScript, and now on TypeScript. So it doesn't really matter what programming language that you choose. Once you learn that, it will be easy for you to change to anything. So Java would be something good, easy program. Like if you want to go for this object-oriented concepts and all, it will be good. Also, I would also recommend JavaScript, because nowadays I see a trend of, especially if you're asking me the question with respect to web automation, then we see a trend of people using React and JavaScript libraries for the application development, right? So there is a natural tendency for test automation also to use that, JavaScript. So that would also be a good idea. But again, disclaimer, there is no good or bad option in terms of technology. Like it's completely up to the personal opinions. and your requirement. If your project, if you're a developer, if in your team, if the developers are using Java, go for it, because that would be, you get an easy handhold with them. You can get a good support with them. So you take a decision based on, what you see in your uh, surroundings, circumstances, and different situations.
Aparna, that is well said. I definitely agree that it's dependent on the individual, because for different people, maybe different languages will be less
Yeah.
effective or more effective. So it really depends. Yeah, and it also depends
Yeah.
on the project as well. So that was a very good
Yeah.
point. All right. The next question here is, which tool do you suggest to start with?
That's again another tricky question. So if you're looking for a web automation, I would say WebDriver, because it's good to know at least one of the Selenium WebDriver, and then once you get a grab on that, then you can even learn Cypress or Playwright or whatever it is. But that's again um, just one suggestion. That doesn't mean that the other tool is bad or better than this. So you can always, just like how you choose the programming language, right? You can also choose like a testing tool based on the need and the project. Because if your project is something is looking for and even your developer side, right? If it is like mostly hands-on with Selenium, then you can go with Selenium WebDriver. But if it is like, so choosing options is really depending upon your project. And once you learn one tool, you can always learn another tool as well. So you are not stopping learning there, right? So you always keep learning one tool after the other. And if it is API related, then you can have that respective Postman, or maybe if it is REST and SOAP, like you can learn that respective tools as well.
Oh, sorry, Aparna, you were disconnected at the very end there. Could you repeat that last sentence?
So I was saying like for API, so similarly, if you are asking for an API tool, then based on the SOAP or REST, whichever you want to use, you can actually go with that technology and tooling options. Like Postman would be one of the best tool for API testing.
All right, nice. All right, we have this one more question. This question here is a bit long. Um, with 7+ years of experience in manual testing, I know basics for automation testing and Java language too. I don't have experience in building frameworks, but still it was expected from me in most of the interviews. How to deal with the situation, and what do you suggest for this?
Interesting. So again, practice is the main thing. So like in one of the suggestions, right? Like tooling suggestions I've given Test Automation University. So there are some basic courses on creating the framework and all. So you can go through them. You can even look for the tutorials that are instructing on how to build a bare minimum basic framework. So if you want to upskill, if your job statement, job requirement expects you to build a framework, then you probably have to learn that, right? So you have to um, do that. You need to practice it. So, and also it would be a good idea when you are working in an automated project, right? You understand how that project framework is built. Start from there. Start from the framework that you are working on. You understand how they are, what architecture are they using? Are they using a page object model? Is it a keyword driven framework? So that basic information, right? There are some foundations that are used for building any framework. So if it is a keyword driven framework, there will be a pattern. If it is a page object model, there is a pattern. So try to understand like what is that framework, that how it's being constructed, and then you can probably start building it. And most of the time, most of the tools give a default structure. If you give a WebDriver IO, if you install WebDriver IO, it is like a Node.js instance of Selenium WebDriver. If you install it, it gives a standalone structure. It gives a skeleton of a framework. So it will be easy for you to build from there. Then you just have to apply design patterns to it. So basically, if you want to enhance your skills on creating a framework, you would have to learn design methods, design approaches, and also about the toolings, like what tool you need to use, and then how to apply these principles, like how to apply these design principles. I hope that answered the question.
I think it did. Don't worry, Aparna. All right. That concludes our Q&A session. Any unanswered questions will be taken offline, and we will contact Aparna personally, and she will answer our questions, and we will answer those questions offline after the summit. So that's it for the Q&A session. Aparna, any last words before we end the session?
Oh, thank you for thank you QA Tech Talks for this wonderful program. I'm glad to be part of this, and I wish you good luck. I know like there is another events coming in, so I hope everyone would enjoy that as well. And to all the audience, keep learning, and if, feel free to contact me in case of any questions. I'm happy to help. Yeah, so all the best.
All right. Thank you so much, Aparna. Everyone, please let's give a virtual clap to Aparna. Thank you so much again
Thank
for
you.
sharing your knowledge.
Thank you. See you. Bye. Take care.
All right. Very nice.
Bye.
Bye, Aparna. Thank you so
Bye.
much.